Alrighty, so for our Toyota pickup frame Crossmember notch kit, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bracket and I'm going to paint in between these two vertical members, because once this gets welded on, you're really not going to be able to get in there to paint that bare steel. I do leave you notches here on each end so that water and gravel and mud can drain out of there. And that gives you a place to put your straw in to shoot fluid film in there. But just as a extra precautionary step, I'd go ahead and put a couple liberal coats of paint on there, let that dry nicely before you ever get to the step of actually welding this in. Now for this kit to work, it's going to require a minimum 1-inch body lift. So you're going to have 6 pucks. They take a 14mm socket, and you're probably going to have to go in the cab, pull the carpet up, pull the rubber plug out, and put a wrench on top to keep this from spinning. You'll pull these out, and then the body lift gets installed in between. And the purpose of that is because without the body lift, we don't have any extra gap in here to raise that cross member up. So I can barely fit my fingers in here, and the weld-on extension I just showed you, that gets welded up above. And the first step is to weld that top piece on so that when we come out and cut this, we're not removing all the strength and letting this distort and possibly letting our frame rails shift further apart. So this truck was not properly done. They just came in with a torch and a cutoff wheel, it looks like, and crudely cut it and just left it. The other thing we have to do to prepare is drop our fuel tank. It's easier just to drop it completely. I've done these without completely removing it. You can pull your mounting bolts front and back and actually just put this on like a transmission jack or a floor jack and slide it back. I put a ratchet strap around the front, hooked it to somewhere on the back, and then ratchet it back just to suck it back and far enough out of the way. That was with a completely bone dry fuel tank that had diesel in it previously, so I wasn't worried about sparks igniting it. This one, on the other hand, had gas in it, so I want to get this completely out of here. So you have a drain bolt over here, and that should be a 19mm. You have a skid plate that goes over this, so you'll have 3 bolts front and back, and those are 12mm head. And then the fuel tank itself also has 3 12mm head bolts. And don't forget to undo your fuel connections. And I take 2 different colors of paint marker and label them so they don't get mixed up. You also have to remove the mounting screws for your fuel filler cap. And the factory used these Phillips head, and I like to replace these. It's an M6 by 1.0 thread. I like to replace them with a hex cap screw because these Phillip heads always round out. So if you remember from part 1, I said I spent several hours using the Hotsy, pressure washing this thing, inside, outside, top side, bottom side. And this is why for the dropping the gas tank and doing the cross member, I like doing as much of it outside as I can, because now you can see how much crap fell out just with the dropping of the fuel tank. And there's actually still quite a bit tucked up in there on the frame and stuff I need to blow off yet. And that's another reason why these trucks rust out, is because between the frame rail and the fuel tank right here, I had a huge dried out chunk of mud right here. So every time that would get wet, that would turn back into mud, and it would either rust into your tank or rust into your frame. But this lip prevents gravity from being able to pull that dirt down once it dries out. So that just pretty much stays there indefinitely unless you drop your tank every couple years and just clean it out. So now on top of our fuel tank, and I'm not going to do this part today, I'm going to probably have to take this tank to the repair shop and have them clean it out, because I made the mistake. I drained it, but there's still enough fuel in here. It smells nasty. I have a feeling we're going to have rust inside here. That's why you don't want to leave gas sitting in a tank for any extended period of time, especially only partially full. It's better to leave it completely full than partially, mostly empty, because then you get condensation on the inside. I should have drained it out and just put diesel in it right away is what I should have done. But anyway, on top here, the line that goes into the fuel filter, that's our feed. So we're going to eliminate this fuel filter. I'll just run hose, eliminate this, and run hose all the way up to the fuel filter I'll put in the engine bay for the engine. And then these other two, one is a return and one's a vent, and I won't know which is which until I actually remove this. The vent is just going to be right at the top, and so I've done this two ways. We have to cap it because we want to eliminate that vent and move the vent to our cap. So we'll put a vented cap right here. Otherwise, what ends up happening, I found, is somehow I've actually had diesel like siphon its way out the vent tube. So we cap it off. You can either weld this tube shut, or you can buy, like on McMaster-Carr, you can get hose plugs for any specific ID of hose, and they're a real tight press fit, and put your hose clamp on it and you're done. So all we'll have coming out of the tank is going to be the feed and the return. So my next step is going to be to remove the charcoal canister and the tube that's for the vent. If you really wanted to, if you wanted to clean up the engine bay as much as absolutely possible, you could take this hard line off and just completely get rid of it. So I thought I'd give you a shot of what it looks like inside. Once you pull your carpet or your matting up, there's the rear bolt. This is the plastic vinyl cap you got to pull out. And then you can see that one actually has a mechanical locking washer on it, so you don't have to put a wrench on that one. And then oddly enough, this front one, which you have to pull that cap out, that one doesn't have the mechanical locking washer on it, so you do have to put a wrench on it to keep it from spinning. And basically, just had to take the sill trim piece out and the kick trim panel out, and that gives you enough room to get to those two bolts. And then the tools I'm going to use to lift the cab is just a floor jack and a 2x6. I'll stick it up under the cab, and I mean, we only have to lift it an inch, so I'll do the passenger side and then I'll go over and do the driver's side. Aside from the 6 body mount bolts and loosening up your fuel tank filler neck, the only other thing you got to worry about is this slip joint for your steering shaft. This is a 14mm bolt, 14mm head bolt. So you loosen that. You can spray some lube in here to help break that if it's seized up. But that just allows this to slip out when you lift the cab up, and then you'll just tighten this back down when you're done. The beauty of the 1-inch body lift is all cables, wires, everything has enough slack in it to account for that 1 inch. As soon as you go to a 2-inch, then it's too much. Then you have to start lengthening ground straps and cables and wires. The filler neck for the fuel tank, once you go to 2-inch, you have to lengthen that, so you have to splice in some more hose. The 1-inch, there's enough in there. You don't have to worry about that. So that's all the difference there is with the 1-inch lift installed on just the cab. All right, this is the third time I'm recording this. The first time my mic wasn't on. Second time the record button got bumped and the camera shut off. So hopefully I don't miss anything this time. So our top cross member is welded on. The bottom is notched for this piece. So this piece tapers on one side, straight on one side, tapers on the other. Taper goes to your right-hand side. And basically it fits just like that. You want this edge to be flush with this edge. You can see my straight cuts along the bottom. I like to start by making my cuts on this piece, and then once the bracket fits, then I transfer this cut all the way through. The plasma cutter is definitely the tool you want to use for this job. And you can see just how tight that is with a 1-inch body lift. But we do have clearance all the way around. So I like to weld all the way around the entire thing and just leave that drain hole right there on each side. Leave that open. And this edge you want to be a little bit further forward than this edge so that you have room to wrap your weld all the way around. So this edge is going to be a tight fit. You'll have just an easy fillet weld to go all the way around. And then you don't want to push it too far forward because on the front side you're going to have a gap. That's what your front side is going to look like. And again, now you can really see just how tight that is and why this is not going to work without a minimum 1-inch body lift. And here is a good example of why you want to use a Sawzall or a cutoff wheel if you don't have to, because it's easy to go past where you want to cut. That's not my mark. That was already there from the original guy. So for this project, I'm working outside the shop because this thing stinks. We're throwing slag everywhere, and so I'm using my portable welding cart. I got a video on that. So you want to check out how I built this cart before you ask me 5,000 times if it's okay to lay the gas cylinder down. Yes, you can't lay acetylene tanks on their side. So I'll let you guys argue about that in the comment section. So the only thing I did inside the cab was weld a hole back shut where the transfer case, pinion brake, whatever you want to call it, that rotor actually rubbed a hole all the way through the floor. So I had to booger up a patch on that on both sides, but on this side it actually wore a hole all the way into the cab. So anyway, here's the bottom brace. And yeah, these holes are actually meant to assist you if you want to. You can use basically a lag screw, coarse threaded lag screw, to line that up, and then that actually positions it further forward, and it gives you a lip over here so you have a nice lip to do a fillet all the way around. But I weld it all the way around both sides. And now, as you can see, we've transitioned our cross member up. We've kept that cross-sectional area, and now we have plenty of room for the pinion and the drive shaft with our dual cases. Or even if you're just doing a diesel swap for something and you want to move everything back a really long ways. Maybe you're doing a 606 swap or something. But that is all there is to the frame cross member installation. So now we can put our gas tank back in. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and thoroughly clean all this and paint this all nice and pretty. But yeah, get this painted up, and then I think the next thing on the agenda, other than painting this and stuff, is actually get the engine and transmission in.